Hello mathematicians! Today on 5th grade math with Miss Howard, we are looking at converting customary units of length. Let's start out by reviewing. What is length? Length is the distance from one point to another. So when we're talking about a distance from, let's say, Watkinsville to Pensacola, Florida, is 388 miles and 6/10 of a mile. The length of the picture frame is 30 centimeters. So remember, length is talking about the distance from one point to another. So now let's look at what are the customary length units. This right here is very important. I would write this down. So if you look here, we have inches, and the abbreviation is IN period. We have feet or foot, and the abbreviation is FT period. Yard, abbreviation YD period, and mile, abbreviation MI period. Now when we talk about these customary length units, it's important to kind of have an idea in your brain of what exactly, how big is an inch. An inch is the length of a small paper clip. A foot is the length of one standard ruler. A yard is about the height of a baseball bat. And a mile is about the distance of 17 football fields lined up in a row. So today we're looking at not just being able to identify these units of length, but also how do we convert among the different units of length. So let's look over here first at our unit conversions. 12 inches equals 1 foot. 3 feet equals 1 yard. 1,760 yards equal 1 mile. Now I'm going to show you this really cool strategy that I use when I'm working on my unit conversions. Let's look at our first problem. It says, how many inches are in 3 feet? So I want you to pause for a minute. What is this question asking you? Go ahead and doodle it down. It's saying, how many inches, that's our unknown, how many inches are equal to 3 feet? So now I want us to go look over here at our unit conversions. We know that 12 inches equals 1 foot. But let's see what we're going from. We are going from feet to inches. So we are going from feet to inches. So which way are we going? Are we going from left to right or from right to left? If you said from right to left, you are correct. We're going from a larger unit of feet to a smaller unit of inches. So we are going to multiply. So we know that 12 inches equals 1 foot. So to figure out this problem, I need to say, okay, 1 foot equals 12 inches. So now instead of having 1 foot, I have 3 feet, and that equals how many inches? So remember, we're multiplying. 3 times 12 equals 36 inches. Your answer would be 36 inches equal 3 feet. Now, this may look like a lot, but don't panic, because we're going to do a lot of practice with this. Let's look at another example, and we're still converting customary units of length. Our question says, how many feet are there in 60 inches? So we are going from inches to feet. We know that 12 inches equals 1 foot. That's what we know. That's our given. We're trying to figure out how many feet equals 60 inches. Notice this time I'm going from inches to feet. So am I going to divide or multiply? If you said divide, you are correct. Now, if 12 inches equals 1 foot, 60 inches equals how many feet? So what I'm doing, I'm going to do 60 divided by 12. I'm going to give you a minute to figure that out. Okay, let's look at this. I know that 12 times 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 1 is 4. 12 times 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 more is 6. So 60 inches equals 5 feet. Now a way to check it, you can ask yourself, okay, feet are larger than inches. So am I going to have more than 60 feet if I'm going from inches to feet? No, because a foot is much larger than an inch. How many yards are in 27 feet? So let's see what we have. How many yards are in 27 feet? We're not going from inches to feet or foot. 1 foot equals 12 inches. We are going from feet to yards. Let's write down what we already know from our unit conversion chart. 3 feet equals 1 yard. We know that. Now let's write down what information we have in our problem. We have 27 feet. Notice I'm lining up the feet with the feet. 27 feet equals how many yards? So now let's look. We're going from feet to yards. When we're going from feet to yards, are we going to multiply or are we going to divide? Let's look at which way our arrow is going. We are going to be dividing. So 27 feet equals how many yards? We're going to take this 27, and we're seeing how many groups of 3 we can make. 27 divided by 3 equals, I know my facts, 9. So 27 feet equals 9 yards. And a way we can check that, we can say, okay, 9 times 3 equals 27. So 27 feet equals 9 yards. How many yards are there in 2 miles? So now we're not going from inches to feet. We're not going from feet to yards. We're going from yards to miles. Okay, so how many yards equal 2 miles? That's what our problem is telling us. Now our unit conversion says that 1,760 yards equal 1 mile. So we know that we have 2 miles, and we're trying to see how many yards that is going to be. So I'm going from miles to yards. So if 1 mile equals 1,760, then 2 miles, I'm going to do 1,760 times 2. 0 times 2 is 0, 6 times 2 is 12, 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 more is 3. So 2 miles equals 3,520 yards. Now think about it. Does that make sense? Let's think about a mile. A mile is about 17 football fields lined up. That's really far. A yard is about the length of a baseball bat. So it's going to be a lot of those baseball bats to equal the length of 17 football fields. So my answer is reasonable. Let's look at another one. How many feet are in 10 yards? First, let's look what our question's asking us. How many feet are in 10 yards? How many, that's our blank, feet equal 10 yards? How many feet equals 10 yards? Let's see, am I going from inches to feet? No, I'm going from feet to yards, or yards to feet. So let's write down what I know from my unit conversions. I know that 3 feet equals 1 yard. Now, I want to stop right here for a minute and I want to highlight something. Look when I write whatever's on my unit conversions and then I have whatever I'm writing or looking at in my problem. Notice I always line up like units. So I wouldn't have blank feet over 1 yard. I would have blank feet over, with my conversions, 3 feet. And we know that we can write 3 feet equals 1 yard. We can also write that as 1 yard equals 3 feet. So remember, the equal sign just means they're equal. They're the same on both sides, so you can flip-flop those back and forth. So let's continue. We see that 3 feet equals 1 yard. We are going from yards, we have yards, and we are going to feet. So we're going to multiply or divide. If you said multiply, you are right. Now 10 yards, we have 10 of those yards. 1 yard equals 3 feet. So 10 times 3 equals 30. 30 feet equals 10 yards. So like I said before, these conversions, they're a skill that practice makes perfect. So just keep on pushing through, and we're going to get this together. So how many inches are in 10 yards? How many inches are there in 10 yards? So we're not going from, let's see, we're not going from inches to feet, feet to yard. Ooh, I want us to think for a minute. Inches to yards. There's nowhere on my unit conversion that says how many inches equal a yard. I'm going to give you a minute. I want you to see if you can figure out, how am I going to solve this? I have here 3 feet equal a yard, and I have here 12 inches equal a foot. Now I'm going to show you what I would do. I would first switch over from yards to feet. I would go from yards, 10 yards equals how many feet? That's what I would do first, because then I can go from feet to inches. 10 yards equals how many feet? I know that 3 feet equals 1 yard, right? Yeah, and I'm going to multiply. So 10 yards equals how many feet? 1 yard equals 3 feet. 3 times 10 equals 30 feet. So now we've switched all the way over, and we're saying 30 feet equals how many inches? I'm going to erase for a minute so that we can have some room. So now we know 30 feet equals how many inches? We know that 12 inches equals 1 foot. But now look, how many feet do we have? We are now going from feet to inches. We are multiplying. So I'm going to erase and make some room. "30 feet times 12 inches, because 30 feet equals how many inches? If 1 foot equals 12 inches, we need 30 of those. So 30 times 12. 0 times 2 is 0. 3 times 2 is 6. I'm going to move it over here so I have more room. 60. Goose egg. 0 times 1 is 0. And 3 times 1 is 3. I add those partial products together, and I get 360. So now I know that 360 inches is equivalent or equal to 10 yards. Now this problem is a little bit more tricky than our basic problems we did before this. So if you got caught up on this, don't worry, we're going to do lots of practice with this. Now let's throw some decimals in there. Let's first look at our question. How many yards are there in 25 and 5/10 of a foot? So if we're doing yards and feet. Okay, let's start off with what we know from our problem. We don't know how many yards. How many yards equals 25 and 5/10 of a foot? Okay, looking at our unit conversion, we know that 3 feet, notice I'm lining up my feet, equals 1 yard. Okay, 3 feet equals 1 yard. So I need to figure out how many yards are there in 25 and 5/10 of a foot. So now let's look over here. We are going from feet to yards. We are going from feet to yards. So are we going to multiply or divide? If you said divide, you are right. So we know that 1 yard equals 3 feet. So how many yards are there going to be in 25 and 5/10 of a foot? So we're doing 25 and 5/10 divided by 3. 3 goes into 2 0 times. 3 goes into 25 8 times. 3 times 8 is 24. Subtract. Oh, I forgot to put my decimal in before I got started. Shame on you, Miss Howard. Bring down your 5. 3 goes into 15 5 times. So 8 and 5/10 of a yard equals 25 and 5 feet. Now let's ask ourselves, does this make sense? Think about a yard. A yard is about the length of a baseball bat. And we know a foot is about a ruler. So there are going to be more feet in a yard. Okay? So think about it. 3 feet equals 1 yard. So our number for feet is going to be larger than how many yards I have. Well, now we're getting real crazy. We just did one that has a decimal. Now we're going to look at one that has a fraction. Our question says, how many inches are there in 3/4 of a foot? So how many, and y'all know I like to draw my box. So for my unknown, how many inches equals 3/4 of a foot? Let's go over here. We're going from inches to feet, or excuse me, feet to inches. So feet, that's the number that I have, to inches. So am I multiplying or dividing? We are going to multiply. So let's write out what we know so far. 12 inches equals 1 foot. Now I'm going to stop for a moment. I want us to look down here and see like what this is actually, what we actually have right here. So what I'm showing you is we're going from left to right, that means to divide, and from right to left, we multiply. It's the same thing when we're talking about our place value chart. But also what I did here is I took my units of measurement for length, for customary units of measurement, and I put them in order from least to greatest. So inches, feet, yards, miles. So inches are the smallest unit of customary length, and miles are the largest unit of customary length. So anytime you are doing unit conversions, you can set up this little chart just like I have down here. So let's look back at our problem. We're trying to see how many inches are there in 3/4 of a foot. We know that 12 inches equals 1 foot. I want you to think about this for a minute. How can we solve this? Now if you said multiply, you are correct. So now let's set it up. Back to my pen. 3/4 of, there's that word again, 12 inches. We know that means to multiply. And we know we are multiplying using our little chart. Now we put our 12 over 1, because 12 once is the same as 12. Now when we multiply straight across. 3 times 12 is 36. 4 times 1 is 4. And I know my math facts, and I know that 36 divided by 4 equals 9. So 12 inches equals 1 foot, and 9 inches equals 3/4 of a foot. So think about it. 12 broken into 4 pieces So if you have 12, let's look at our bar graph. If you have 12, or bar model 12, and we split that 12 into 4 pieces, each of those is going to be worth how much? 3. 3, 3, 3. So 3/4 of those is going to equal our answer of 9. Great job. Now let's look at this problem. It's not asking us to solve anything, it's just asking us a question, so we're just turning on our brains and thinking. Which customary unit would be best to use to measure the length of a stapler? So let's think. We have inches, feet, yards, or miles. I want you to think for a minute, what customary unit of length would we use? I hope you said inches. I hope you said inches. So the best customary unit would be inches. So what would be our best estimate for the stapler? 7 inches or 36 inches? Hope you said 7 inches. Think about 36 inches. That would be about a yard. Actually, not about, it is a yard. It equals a yard, and a stapler is not the length of a baseball bat. Let's look at another one. Which customary unit would best be used to measure the length of a backyard swimming pool? Would it be inches? Would it be feet? Would it be yards? Or would it be miles? Definitely not miles, because that's really far. Inches, oh, that would take you a long time. So, which do you think it'd be? If you said yards, you are correct. Now, what would our best estimate be for the pool? We know it's yards. Would 3 yards or 12 yards be a better estimate for our pool? If you said 12 yards, you are correct. Which customary unit would be best to use to measure the distance from Atlanta, Georgia to Dallas, Texas? Would it be inches, feet, yards, or miles? This one should be pretty easy. Miles. Which is the best estimate for the distance between the two cities? So think about it. From Georgia, oh, where's my pen? From Georgia to Texas. Oh, that's pretty far. It takes Miss Howard 8 miles, about 8 miles, 8 minutes, 10 minutes to get to school. So it would be 800 miles because it's a far drive. Which customary unit would be best to use to measure the length of a fireplace? Inches, feet, yards, or miles? What do you think? If you said feet, you are correct. I would definitely use feet. You could technically use yards on this one, but you would probably say about a yard and a half or a yard and 3/4 of a yard. But I would say feet. But if you're able to justify your answer, you know I'm all about that. So what is the best estimate for the length of the fireplace? So that means from here to here. That's the length from one point to another. Not how tall it is. We're looking at the length from left to right. So is 20 feet reasonable or is 5 feet reasonable? Now, unless you have a ginormous house, 20 feet is out of control. I would definitely say 20 feet is not a reasonable estimate. 5 feet is your best estimate. Well, great job today. Remember, if you need to watch any of these sections of the video, please feel free to do so. Have a great day.